It had been almost 3 weeks since Linda had returned home from her disastrous trip to visit David, and things were not going well in their marriage. David's increased workload only exacerbated the lack of communication between him and his wife. His dissatisfaction and growing anger at Linda, as well as his growing feeling that the end of their marriage was inevitable, caused him to avoid talking to her, afraid of saying something that could not be taken back. During this 3-week period, they spoke on the phone only 4 or 5 times, and each conversation ended badly when Linda was unable to tell her husband when she would return home. David had his suspicions, but wanted to be completely sure before ending their marriage. However, he has already begun to make plans in case of divorce, if, of course, he has evidence of infidelity. Adam arrived at Tom's on Friday afternoon, as he had done for the past few months. Strangely, the visits have become more regular since Linda's arrival. Tom wondered if there would be an awkwardness in the way Linda and Adam greeted each other this time, since if all went according to plan, they would be having sex at some point this weekend. Usually, they would hug quickly, and Linda would leave the men alone until dinner. This time, they awkwardly hugged, separated, and laughed as Linda said, "Well, that was a little awkward. Are you as nervous or worried as I am about possible changes in our friendship?" He laughed and said, "Oh, thank God. Yeah, me too. I thought it was just me. I've never done anything like that, and I'm not sure what the etiquette is," and he laughed. He took a deep breath and said, "Why don't we continue doing what we've been doing all these months and just see the situation?" Both Adam and Linda breathed a sigh of relief, and Linda said, "Yes, thanks, Adam. That's a good idea. Let's just relax and enjoy the warm sun before maybe diving in," she giggled and added, "into the deep end." Now everyone understood that if everything went according to plan, the relationship between them would change, one way or another. The awkwardness of the first half of the day passed, they went about their usual activities, and by the time Linda, with Tom's help, served dinner, everyone felt comfortable. The evening was spent playing cards, talking, light snacks with cheese and fruit, accompanied by glasses of excellent local red wine, until Tom said, "Well, I think it's time for bed." Tom, wanting to make sure everything was okay, asked, "So, what are we guys deciding? No pressure. We can go ahead as we discussed, or we can just continue as before and forget we were even up to anything." Adam and Linda slightly fidgeted in their seats, as if neither of them were ready to speak first. "Linda, you are the key here. The three of us are considering this for my sake, for my health, and hopefully for yours too. I hope that I can finally satisfy you if you decide. That's a lot to ask of you. And God knows you've already given me so much, so there's no pressure if you don't want to or have doubts. If you need more time to think, take it, because once that bottle is opened, you can't put the genie back in." Linda looked down for a moment before raising her head again and looking at Tom and then at Adam. "The way I see it, Tom, this is something that is apparently, clearly, really, very important to you, and the only reason I'm here is to help you spend the rest of your time in happiness and comfort as much as possible. You're asking me and Adam to do something that used to make you very happy. We're here for you, and if that's what you really want and Adam still agrees, then I—" She took a deep breath before, then to continue, ready to try. "If it works, it will work, and maybe we can do it again. If not, we'll stop right away. Even if even one of us wants to stop, it will stop right away. That's non-negotiable for me." After a short pause, she continued, "I had a hard time accepting it at first. I was shocked, then angry, but then I thought, I've already done so much, put it on the line, and it kind of helped you, so I didn't want to all my efforts have gone down the drain," she laughed. "So if that's what you really want, Tom, I'll try." "So, do we have a third?" Linda asked, giggling as she looked at Adam. "What can I say?" he answered. "If you're both ready, who am I to refuse?" He laughed. "Volume?" Linda asked, looking at him seriously. "This could backfire on all of us, you know. I've known you two for years. If I thought it wouldn't work, I probably wouldn't have suggested it, although when I first brought it up to you separately, I knew I might get rejected and maybe even lose the friendship. But I trusted my instincts. I trust you, and you were with me in the most difficult times. Although what we are about to do may turn against us, I don't think it will. And I don't think you two think so either, otherwise you wouldn't even consider it. So I'm ready, he said with a smile. Everyone was still sitting in place until Tom stood up, took Linda by the hand. She also stood up, looked at Adam, and said excitedly, "Let's go," headed to the bedroom. Adam suggested giving Linda time to get ready to go to bed before they joined her. The men remained outside, exhaling a sigh of relief, while Linda took off her jeans and cardigan, grabbed some towels, and got into bed, covering herself with the blanket up to her chin. The guys entered the room and Adam spoke again, asking if she wanted to turn off the lights. "No. Leave him, please. Remember, Linda, you can stop at any time if you feel like you don't want to continue," Tom said. "Yeah, we can bring things back to a friendly level. And hopefully we'll still be friends," Adam added. Linda simply nodded with a closed smile. They had sex. Suddenly Tom almost shouted, "What the hell is going on? This wasn't part of the plan, so what the hell are you doing here? Have you two started your own relationship now?" Their faces changed dramatically when they realized that Tom was right. In pursuit of their own pleasure, they forgot about Tom. They had nothing to say. Having received no answer, Tom shouted again, "What the hell is going on? I repeat, you two are now going to start your own relationship. Twice in one night, and now again, this." After a short silence, Adam spoke up. "Linda pressed herself against me, thinking it was you, and we started having sex. Sorry, Tom," Adam said. "It was a mistake of personality, and I didn't know if you agreed on anything else, so I just let it happen. Sorry again, Tom. I want you both to get out of this bed, get away from me. It wasn't enough for you what you did at night, but you also decided to repeat it in the morning. What you two did last night, and now again in the morning, means I'm not needed at all. You're just doing this for your own pleasure." He paused. "I don't need this. If you want to continue this, I won't stop you. But do it somewhere else, and then neither of you will be welcome here anymore. Take your pick. Now get away from me." They got out of bed and Linda headed to the bathroom. Before she could sit on the toilet, tears rolled down her cheeks. She really liked the sex. But in pursuit of her own pleasure, she hurt Tom, which went against her original goal to come here to help him. How could she do this? Linda thought as tears streamed down her face. Adam showered in the guest bathroom, got dressed, got into the car, and drove into town for coffee and reflection. He really enjoyed his time with Linda, and he knew she enjoyed it too, but perhaps they had gone too far. But Linda was incredibly beautiful and sexy, so it was hard to blame him, he thought. However, he was going to apologize to both of them and offer to end this arrangement in order to try to return to simple friendships without the complications caused by sex. Mixed feelings of anger and jealousy, intertwined with strong excitement, caused confusion in Tom's thoughts. Now he had calmed down and regretted a little that he had lost his composure in the morning. These two were the only real friends he had left. Especially Linda, she did so much for him. Is it fair to deprive them of the opportunity to enjoy a moment of pleasure? Selfish thoughts began to pop into his head. What if they wanted more? It seemed that Linda and Adam were on the same page, not only in terms of sex, but also in other things, and there was no denying it. Linda was a very beautiful, sensual woman with a curvaceous, feminine figure, and her desire for sex, at least since she and Tom had been together, seemed insatiable. He couldn't ask a woman like Linda not to take the opportunity to get what she might have needed to be completely happy. And Adam. It would be strange if he missed what Linda suggested. In the end, it was Tom who brought them together, and not for their pleasure, but for his own. Linda didn't belong to him. She was still married, still the wife of his best friend, although Tom now knew that her friendship with David, if not over, was on the verge of breaking. Linda hesitantly entered the kitchen, where Tom was already sitting at the table. She changed clothes, but did not put on the light, almost transparent summer dress that she usually wore for Tom's pleasure, but a blouse and jeans. The dress gave him full access to her body, but she thought it might be inappropriate today after everything that had happened this morning. Sorry, Tom. Adam and I got a little carried away. I never meant to deprive you of anything. In fact, at first I thought it was you, and before we knew it, we had sex. It's not his fault. I probably encouraged him myself. I'm sorry, Tom. This won't happen again. If necessary, I'm ready to end this arrangement if it helps us return to what it was. I did it. For your sake, because we both thought it would help. We knew it might work or it might not, so I'd like to believe we tried, but if it doesn't work, let's just go back to the way it was. But it's up to you. You got hurt, that's all. It's up to you. I love you, Tom. You are the most important thing to me. I like Adam, but he is not important to me. She wanted Tom to understand that she was here for him. Adam was a distraction, and she had no intention of spending time alone with him. I'm yours, Tom. Yours. I may have sex with Adam, but he's only here because you wanted him. And know that no matter what happens between the three of us, I'm yours, Tom. Yours. Tom sat silently, saying nothing. Then, after a while, he asked, "Was Adam with you after you both left the bedroom in the morning?" "No," she replied. "I heard him take a shower, and then I heard a car drive away. I think it was him." Tom reached out and took her hand, and a small smile appeared on her face. "I lost my temper this morning, and I hope you can forgive me," he said. "I was only thinking about myself. I couldn't bear it. But I also understand that you really needed more," he laughed. "If you want to end everything, I will understand, but I hope you will forgive me and stay." A wide smile lit up her face. "Of course, I will stay. You don't need to ask for forgiveness. Rather, it is I who should beg for your forgiveness. What you did was an exceptional case, and you thought it was me, at least at first." He smiled slyly before adding, "I have nothing to forgive you for." They hugged and kissed for the first time in a long time. It was nice. Tom called Adam, asked where he was and what he was doing, and then told him, "Come back here, we miss you." Adam realized that everything was in order, although he did not know whether their new arrangement would last. But that suited him too. If the relationship between the three of them returned to the previous level of friendship, that would be acceptable to him. Adam returned, and Tom gathered them all in the living room. Even though his mood had improved again, neither Adam nor Linda knew what to expect. They looked at each other warily, exchanged shy smiles, and sat down, waiting for Tom to speak. "Okay, guys, what you did this morning was not what I suggested all this for. But I guess I should have assumed that it could happen. You are both healthy adults and obviously found common language. Whether it was a mistake of personality or not, it doesn't matter." "Tom, Linda began, but Tom interrupted her. "Please let me finish, okay?" She nodded, and he continued. "The thing is, no matter what happened last night and this morning, you were both there for me when the illness started to take over, and I can't tell you how grateful I am for that. I don't know how much time I have remained, but the time we spent together these last months made me happy, and because of that, I will leave with the knowledge that people were there for me, sacrificing for me. I'm not going to waste another second being angry or hurt about what happened this morning. Maybe a little jealous, but I don't own any of you. Really, you got together because of me. Maybe this would have happened without my participation, but I wanted us to share it. And even if it happens again someday, I would prefer not to know about it. Your presence in the time I have left is the most important thing to me now, and I am not going to worry about things that I cannot control. So we need to make a decision. Shall we continue what we started last night? Or will we return to the friendly status that we have had in recent months, without any complications? Whatever we decide, it should be a common decision and everyone should be on the same page. If there are disagreements, we will discuss and resolve, but in the end, everyone must agree." There was silence, and no one dared to express their opinion first, to either continue or return to the previous one. "Okay," said Tom, "I will begin. I am ready to continue what we started last night. We knew that there might be some difficulties, but as far as I understand, all the problems that arose have been resolved. It was a great pleasure for me, and I enjoyed it. Having resolved some issues for myself today, I am ready to continue if you are too. But if someone wants to stop, I will support it without questions and without offense. There was another long pause before Linda spoke. I'm glad to continue. I saw the impact it had on you. She looked at Tom. I think it achieved what you wanted, and I really liked it too, so I'm also glad to continue more. For a while, it will take some time before any of us finally decide whether we want to continue this or not. Adam, Tom asked. I agree, Adam said. We had a little glitch, but it looks like it's been resolved, so I'm all for continuing. I think it's something new for all of us, and maybe there was a little childish delight and overexcitement at the new toy, but if we continue, things will probably calm down a little. I'm very interested in how this will all develop. So we're all on the same page? Tom asked. Yes, Adam and Linda replied. Let's go into town, take a walk, maybe even have dinner there, Tom suggested. They left a little later, enjoying the day exploring the area. Adam, who had lived there the longest, told them a few little-known facts about their small town, and by the evening, as they settled into dinner, any remaining tension had disappeared. Returning home around 8:30 p.m., they settled into the living room. The guys drank beer, and Linda had a glass of her favorite red wine. Tom, eager to get into bed, asked, "Shall we go?" And, getting up, extended his hand to Linda, who stood up from the sofa. "Come on, Adam," Tom said, now sounding rather excited. The rest of the night went much the same as the previous night. Sunday morning arrived, and all three of them were ready to face the new day. The day was expected to be hot. Linda told the guys to have breakfast without her, as she wanted a little more time to clean up before joining them. The guys were almost finished when Linda entered the kitchen. Tom, without turning around when he heard her steps, asked what she wanted for breakfast. "It's the same for me as for you. I'm starving." The guys turned around as Linda walked up to the table, and Adam's mouth dropped open in shock when he saw what she was wearing. Tom was ready for this, as Linda had previously asked him if he would mind if she wore a light, transparent dress, since it was going to be a hot day, and besides, she was feeling a little excited. Tom smiled and said, "You realize he'll want to have sex with you if you wear this, right?" She simply smiled and asked, "Would you mind if we shared?" "We'll see how things go," Tom replied. Numb, Adam barely audibly said, "Wow," admiring her figure and sensuality. They were wearing only shorts, and Linda quickly noticed how their clothes tensed as they looked at her. For the first time in front of anyone other than Tom, Linda put on her light summer dress. Adam noticed that Linda was wearing an almost see-through dress rather than the usual blouse and jeans she always wore when he visited before, and he couldn't help but notice how her ample breasts jiggled with every movement, confirming the lack of a bra. The light of the sun streaming through the room allowed him to notice that in addition to her lack of a bra, Linda was also without panties. He did not know that this and similar dresses were her usual home clothes when she and Tom were alone. Linda loved sex and knew Tom did too, and she wanted him to have easy access to her whenever he or she wanted it. "God, Linda, you look amazing," Adam said when he was able to speak again. "You look like an ancient Roman or Greek goddess, as if she came down to earth to give pleasure to all humanity. I have never seen anything so sensual, dressed and naked at the same time. How can it be so beautiful?" Linda blushed. "Thank you. This is not something I usually wear in front of strangers, but I thought you should get used to it if we are going to continue our intimate relationship. I wear this to please my man, and if he wants his friend to be a part of something that brings him joy, and if this continues to develop, perhaps he will show you the reason for the existence of this beautiful dress." Linda pulled back her chair and sat down while Tom prepared her breakfast. Tom served her breakfast and sat next to her while she ate. After a while of silence, he asked, "You said you were feeling a little horny. Is this still the case?" "A little." "Do you want to sleep with him?" "Not exactly with him, and only if you are part of it. But you know how much we both love sex. Wouldn't that bother you? And it will no longer be just for your pleasure. It will be for his pleasure and mine, which will go beyond this whole concept of bringing him into our lives. But you will still be present. Will this be a problem for you or for us? You were very angry yesterday. Although it upset me and made me angry at first, when I saw you yesterday morning, as I said, after thinking about it, I realized that I was being selfish. It was strange, but once I realized it, it was like a switch flipped. I still need to prove it, and like I said, if you want to do it, I suggest you don't do it in front of me. But with the new day and how things settle down, I'm pretty sure I'll be okay with it. And you know what else? He asked. And to be honest, it was only my stupid pride that stopped me from having sex with you again then. I'm not sure, but I think you would be fine, and then there wouldn't be any problems. But that was yesterday. I'd still prefer that if you have sex with him, it's between us, between all three of us, but I won't be a fool if you do it without me once or twice, as long as you're honest. Come and tell me. Any lie or deception will destroy me very quickly. I couldn't stand it. I know it may sound hypocritical considering what we did with David, but that's the way it is. The mention of David's name cooled her ardor for a moment, and Linda stood up from the table to rinse the dishes, bending over to load them into the dishwasher. She straightened up and asked, "What time does he usually leave on Sundays?" It varies, but usually in the middle or late afternoon, between 2 and 4 o'clock. Why are you asking? Just like that. Tom noticed the momentary tension on her face when he mentioned David and regretted opening his mouth. He came up from behind, put his arm around Linda's waist, and buried his head in her neck. "I'm sorry I mentioned David," he said, feeling her momentary tension before the subsequent touch of his lips relaxed her. "So we're all ready for a repeat?" asked Tom. "I am," Linda replied, rising from the table. "Me too," Adam replied, looking at Linda and adding, "You are the most amazing creature I have ever seen in my life, and I almost deify you." Linda glanced quickly at Tom, and he understood everything. Smiling, he nodded slightly, giving his consent. The smile that lit up his face was so bright that it could light up the night sky. Tom realized that everything would be fine with them. He will find the strength to give her everything she needs. It was Friday evening when David called Linda. He wasn't ready to consummate their marriage yet. Adam had arrived earlier that day. It was already the third week of their new weekend arrangement, and it had been another 3 weeks since David and Linda had started talking again. Although Linda now had sex with Tom on weekdays and with both Adam and Tom on weekends, she went shopping in town that Wednesday and met Adam. She thought he was still away, so she was surprised but glad to see him again, even though it had only been a few days since their last meeting. They had lunch, and when Adam remembered that Linda had never been to his house, he offered to show her his place. She was interested to see how and where he lived when he was not working as a consultant, and she agreed to follow him. When he arrived, he offered her a glass of wine, which she drank while he showed her the house. After walking through the living rooms, they returned to the kitchen, where he refilled their wine, and then he continued the tour, showing the bedrooms, including the master bedroom. He took the glass from her, put both on the bedside table, and walked up to her. "Adam, what are you doing?" "I can't help myself, Linda. You are an incredibly sensual and beautiful woman, and I can't help but want to hold you, make love to you," he whispered. "You don't like what I do." Yeah, I like it, but shouldn't we limit our relationship to weekends when Tom is involved too? I also like our weekends, but I've long dreamed of just being alone with you. Just you and me, slowly moving on to the next step. I know what you mean, but it wouldn't be fair to Tom. We're only together because Tom wanted us to. It would be wrong to do something behind his back. You heard him when he said that he expected this to happen and that it was okay if we didn't do it in front of him, he asked, unbuttoning her blouse. "Yeah, I heard that. But I'm not sure he really meant it," she muttered. "He doesn't get jealous anymore when we're together. He doesn't show any negative emotions, so I guess we can trust him, right?" said Adam. "Oh yeah, maybe you're right, but I don't want to hide anything from Tom," she said. She added, "He did say that such a random episode would be acceptable." "So," asked Adam, "do you want some of this alone time just for us?" "Okay, if you insist," she laughed. They had sex. When she returned, Tom was sitting at the kitchen table. He asked worriedly why she was late, assuming something had happened, and Linda simply looked him in the eyes and said, "I met Adam in town today." "So what next?" "He offered to show me his house because I had never been there." "And you went?" "Yes." Tom fell silent for a while. He was silent for a long time before finally saying, "Well, I told you it could happen, so I can't complain," and the sadness lingered on his face a little longer before he smiled, stood up, and went into the living room to watch TV. Linda stood in the doorway and said, "You said it would be okay if it happened every once in a while." "Yes, that's what I said. It's okay. It's okay." "This won't happen anymore," she added. He simply looked at her, shrugged and smiled, but that smile did not reach his eyes. "I've already eaten, but I think Margaret left you something in the refrigerator. Heat it up in the microwave if you get hungry." They didn't make love that night, and they didn't make love the next day either, but by Thursday things were fine between them again. And by Friday, the second of what would soon become a primary sexy weekend with Adam began. Linda no longer arranged secret meetings with Adam alone. Adam arrived, and the three of them started their weekend. All three took a shower, after which they had breakfast, cleaned up the kitchen, and settled into the living room. It was another hot day, and with no plans for the day, the guys only wore shorts and Linda wore one of her light, sheer summer dresses. "What a perfect start to the day," Tom said. Everyone laughed, agreeing with him. "Anyone else excited?" Linda asked, standing up and taking off her dress. She liked sex, and she did not feel guilty because she did it in order to support a dying person. Today was just another one of those days. "I'm in," Adam said, standing up. "Me too," Tom added, standing up and moving the cushions from the couch to the floor, then moving the coffee table to the side of the room. They were having sex when suddenly they heard a sound. There was the sound of a car approaching the house. Tom didn't have many guests these days, so the three of them were surprised. Adam looked out the window and asked, "Do you know someone who drives a dark blue BMW 7 Series?" Linda screamed, "Oh God, my God, no. No, it's David. God, he's going to kill us. He's not the type to play with." Her last words turned out to be prophetic. "Quickly, clean up, guys." Realizing that you need to hurry. The unexpected arrival of Linda's husband, and even without warning, late on Saturday morning, was so unexpected that everything took them by surprise. And this was the final nail in the coffin of their marriage. Then panic began. Tom and Adam hurriedly tidied up the room, while Linda quickly put on her light summer dress, which she wore almost every day when she stayed at Tom's house. "Hold him down as long as you can," said Tom, as the room gradually began to look decent again, and the men hastily put everything back in its place and opened the windows for ventilation. In a state of panic, overwhelmed by David's sudden arrival, Linda ran outside instead of sending Tom, who was in a neater appearance. In her haste, she did not take into account the smell that surrounded her like a cloud, or perhaps she decided that the smell would be less noticeable on the street. David immediately noticed that she was a little out of breath as she approached him, pulling up the thin strap of her dress that had slipped off one shoulder. He found it strange to see that she wasn't wearing a bra under her sheer summer dress. Under the light breeze, the fabric of the dress hugged her hips, clearly showing that she was not wearing any panties. You could say she was practically naked, he thought, frowning. The smell that emanated from her, coupled with her flushed face and body, left David in no doubt that his arrival had interrupted their sexual games. He heard rapid movements inside the house, and even a crash as something fell as Tom and Adam tried to return the coffee table to its place and open the windows. He couldn't see through the windows because the bright sun was reflecting off the glass, and he didn't think much of the noise. Linda, trying to keep him outside, began to ask how the trip was. what he was doing if he wanted to look at the garden, since Tom had changed something in the design. David had already made a decision before arriving at Tom's that, depending on how this weekend went, Linda would either return home with him or he would file for divorce. He was almost sure that it would be a divorce, and he experienced this loss in advance, anticipating the end of their marriage. Now, seeing Linda's condition, he had no doubt left that divorce was the only way out. His first reaction to her obvious infidelity was to lash out at her and Tom with anger, but his innate self-control kept him from violence, turning his thoughts to leaving. However, he was overcome with a strange, almost dark curiosity. He wanted to see how this weekend would go. Linda suddenly realized that her desire to support Tom and, more recently, Adam, including providing them with her body during Tom's dying days, and her habit of wearing a minimum of clothing so that Tom had easy access to her body, created a less than ideal picture of her marital fidelity, especially considering that she had been living with Tom for about 5 months, only occasionally returning home to New York, where she and David lived together. Her last visit home was more than a month ago. She was still trying to delay David to give Tom and Adam more time to clean and air out the room, and asked him if he had any bags. Yes, in the trunk. She looked inside and saw 2 bags. She started to pull both out, but David told her to leave one. "What's in it?" she asked. "She's heavy." "Just things I'll need to take to the office. I'll stop by there on the way home." Linda wanted to delay him even longer, but realized that the closer she was to him, the greater the chance that he would smell her body and sex. She desperately wanted to shower and clean herself up. They entered the house, where they were greeted by a smiling Tom, who greeted David with a handshake and a hug. David, pretending not to notice, returned the handshake and the tight hug. Then he noticed a man standing a little further away whom he had not seen before. "David, meet Adam." "Adam, this is David," Tom introduced them. "Adam is a friend who helps around the house, doing some physical work that neither Linda nor I can do. Or, to be honest, we don't want to cope," he laughed. "Would you like a drink? Something alcoholic? Soda? Water?" Tom asked when everyone was seated in the living room. "Just water," David replied. "I'm trying to take care of my health now." After a short pause, Linda said, "Since we're talking about physical work, I also did a little outside work today. I feel dirty, so I'll go take a shower and get cleaned up while you guys get to know each other better," she said with a tight smile and left. David noticed her walk into the bedroom, not the guest room they had shared during his previous visits, but the master bedroom. A few minutes later, he heard her go to the bathroom, which was connected to the main bedroom. Linda washed herself in the shower and prayed to herself, hoping that David was tired after a long journey and did not notice her condition. Sometimes he was so inattentive that he might not even notice the explosion, but at other times he could catch the smallest details. This morning she had sex. Linda tried to erase the smell of sex from herself and recalled the events of the morning, when they heard the sound of a car driving along the road. Upon learning that it was David, she was overcome with a feeling of fear. Now her only thought was to try to convince David that nothing bad had happened, and that she was glad to see him again after a long absence. Subscribe to our channel so that your love doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think. Click to the next one. Click to the next one. Click